Hi there, welcome back to CookAlong Live. Hopefully you enjoyed last week's sausage leek and apple stew. This week we're going to do a cottage pie. This should be quite a quick recipe to do. What I would say is if you haven't already, make your mashed potato in advance. It makes it so much easier for when we're actually doing our putting it into the grill. To start off with, or you should have mince, Worcester sauce, tomato puree, flour, onion, celery stick, carrots, and some stock. On your recipe, you also have cheese and you also have butter. What I've done is I've put the butter through the mashed potato already, just to kind of save it from having to put it in just before you put it in the grill. So let's get started. What you're going to do is you're going to heat a large pot with some oil. Just heat the oil through. It should have a lid, and if you do it to medium to high heat, so on inductions, you're kind of looking at about, well, this induction it's about 7. Then what you're going to do is you're going to cook the carrot, onion, and celery. So let's prep it all. You're going to peel the carrots. This mince recipe you could also use for mince and tatties. Obviously, you just don't put it onto the grill, you just put it onto the plate. So first peel your carrots and then chop it in half. Chop it in half again, so you're now in quarters. And then just chop it up. Doesn't really matter how well you chop it up. If you were doing this with kids and they're quite fussy with their veg, again, you would just soften. You would do this first part, and soften the veg. You could then blitz it to make like a veg slurry, and then put it through the mince. But if you don't have anyone that's fussy, you would just leave the veg as it is. Cut the celery, just take the tops off the celery and then cut it into cubes as well. And the onion, just chop the onions from both sides and then peel it. Just keep an eye on obviously your oil. If it is, inductions do heat up a little bit more quicker than your traditional gas. And then what you're going to do is you're just going to chop it up into little chunks. Oops. Alternatively, if you didn't have any mashed potato in the house, but you had smash or instant mashed potato in your cupboards, you could use that as well for your mash. Okay, so you got your veg, just chuck it in, and then fry it for about 5 minutes. You're kind of just wanting the onion to kind of get brown and soften, but just fry it around. The smaller you put your veg, obviously the quicker it'll take to cook. These recipes are all one pot recipes, so it allows us to kind of not really break the bank budget wise. Also, you don't have a lot of washing up, which is obviously Perfect. So all you're going to do is you're going to let that fry off for about 5 minutes. Then at that point, what you're going to do is you're going to add in your beef or your mince. So just fry it off. You're really waiting for that veg to soften. Once you get to that like softened veg stage, that's when you know you're ready for the next bit. Then what you're going to do is you're going to get your mince. What I do, because they're on vacuum packed, a lot of mince right nowadays is vacuum packed. You can kind of break it up in the vacuum. It just allows it slightly easier to handle when you get to the next stage. And then all you're doing, you can put the heat up. Once you have obviously got stuff in the pan, you can put the heat up a little bit higher because you're watching it. It's at that stage, that first stage, because you've got just the oil, it can be quite... If you need to add more oil because you feel it's sticking, like I did, you would just add that. And then you just cook it all around. Make sure it's getting a good heat. Whilst that is cooking, obviously you can do your mashed potato if you've not done so already. Prep your potatoes and then put it into hot boiling water. Bring it up to boil. When it softens, that's when you know the mashed potatoes ready. Also, you should really try and find, this might be a bit too big, but find a tray that can go under the grill. We obviously use Pyrex quite a bit. That's you always know that they're kind of heat proof. But just find something that can, an oven dish that can go into the grill. Then what to do is just mix and soften these. When you feel like the veg has softened, the most likely one that you'll see softening is probably the onions. When they go a bit more translucent, you know that they're nearly done or they've gone brown. When that has happened, you're then going to add your mince in. What I would do is I would add in the full mince block, and then as soon as the mince is in, just use a spoon, your wooden spoon, to kind of mash it up and break it up. You're going to add in stock and stuff later on. So when you add that in, that's when you'll know. So, make sure to keep it on the hob. Just try and break it up as much as you can. Vacuum pack is it's really hard to break up the mince. I do understand that. And then just bring in the veg as well into the mince. If there's big bits of onion that you think, I don't want to have that in there, I would take that out at that stage. And just, what you're doing is you're just breaking it up, and then it should hopefully, the mince, obviously you're browning the mince in the veg. Once all the veg is brown, so you don't see any pinky bit left, then you're going to add in your other ingredients. At this point, once the pinkness has gone from the meat, I would be turning down the heat a little bit. You don't want burnt mince. But right now, you're just kind of cooking the mince off as normal. Okay, so once that's the mince kind of all browned. There's not really any pink bits left. What you're going to do is you're going to add in the flour. Just kind of mix the flour in. This should bind with the water that's maybe in the mince and the beef juice. At this point, as I say, I would turn down the heat slightly off the pan. So I've turned it from 7, which is like a medium heat, to like a low to medium heat. Try and make sure to have that all, make sure all the flour is kind of within the beef. That's 1 tablespoon of flour. You can hear now that it's kind of went from a right ferocious sizzle to kind of a quiet fry. That's because we've turned down the heat, but also the flour has kind of absorbed all that juice that was in there before. Then what we're going to add, so once all the flour is kind of dissolved, you don't see any more of the flour, you're going to add in your 1 tablespoon of tomato puree. And mix that around. Just make sure you get into obviously all the edges of the pan. I'm such a messy person when it comes to cooking, or just everything goes everywhere. This is a great recipe for kids. Like the kids love mince. So you're going to mix in that tomato puree and just cook for around about a minute. Doesn't have to be exact. Again, if you see any big chunks of meat, just break it up. And then what you're going to do is you're going to add in your hot stock, which is 450 mils of chicken stock and 1 tablespoon of Worcester sauce. Now, Worcester sauce is our kind of magic ingredient when it comes to cooking with mince. We add it into all our recipes. I know it's like a kind of Marmite. Sometimes people love it, sometimes people hate it. You can't really taste it when it's in the dish. So we always recommend that you kind of add it in just for an extra flavour. It stops us from reaching for the salt and pepper grinders as much as well. So that's the Worcester sauce in. Now we're just going to add in the chicken stock. And then it all goes quiet again. So what we're going to do now that we've got the chicken stock in with the tomato puree, the Worcester sauce, the meat and the veg, and that flour, all you're going to do is you're going to kind of make sure all the meat's kind of submerged in the stock, and everything around the pan is in the liquid. You're going to put the heat up for, and you're going to put the heat up for about 10 minutes, put the lid on, and leave it for 10 minutes, and then come back. Hopefully the stock will have reduced and it'll be ready for the next step, which is putting it into the grill. Okay, so that has been on for about 10 minutes. I'm just going to move that over slightly. What we're going to do now is you're going to preheat your grill to kind of a medium to high heat. Then what you're going to do is you're going to just put in your mince into your oven-proof dish. This should feed a family of 4, 5 potentially, with the amount of mince and veg you've put in it. So just scoop it in. How I kind of do at the end is just make sure it's all out the bowl. Now, that's obviously your meat layer. What you're going to do now is add in your potato. So from your mashed potato you've done earlier, you're going to just spoon it on top. So you can kind of, what I normally do is do it in 4 little chunks. And then just pat it down. Just so you know you've got all of it covered. It doesn't really matter if the juice comes through. At the end of the day, it all goes down the same way anyway. And then just push the potato all the way to the edges of your oven dish, just so you know you've got full cover. And then just use a fork and just go round it, making it like tram lines. At this stage, if you want, you can add cheese to it. If you don't like cheese or you don't want to, you don't need to. I know the recipe says obviously add cheese to this point, but that is very much optional. I'm just going to add in all the rest of my potato. Okay, so now you've got it. Now you've got it, and what you're going to do now is you're going to put it into the grill for about 10 minutes, but really you're only putting it into the grill until the potato is nice and brown. So that is been around about 10 minutes in the grill. Now you can see the potatoes hard on top. It's nice and brown. That is it ready to serve. You could serve this with like some peas, some broccoli, some veg, some cabbage. It's a really good meal. It should do at least 4 people, if not more. It's a nice, quick, easy recipe. I hope you enjoy this recipe, and make sure to come back next week to see what we're going to cook. I should say, because it's the February holidays, we've actually got a week off, so it's the following week, so we're back in 2 weeks with honey chicken noodles. That's what we're going to do next time. But as I say, all the recipes are on our website, so if you want to go try one out during the February holidays, please do and send us your feedback. Thank you again for watching, and I will see you in a couple of weeks. Remember, it's real live cooking, real community. Thank you. Thank you to Cash for Kids and Wallyford Community Centre for funding us as well.